Hi everyone. You can call me Echoes, or yeah, you call me Echoes, and I'm a VTuber. Before I actually covered a bit of behind the scenes regarding Witch of Mercury, especially with the prequel story Cradle Star, and also interview from the series producer. But this time I'm actually going to be covering and comparing the first episode of Witch of Mercury with Revolutionary Girl Utena, which I just watched the first episode of. Because after when I watched Revolutionary Girl Utena, and then I watched Witch Mercury again, I then realized that there are a lot of similarities that may easily be overlooked. So I'll just be pointing out some of these and maybe do a bit of analysis regarding that as well. I hope you guys will enjoy it. So the first thing I can see is that in Revolutionary Girl Utena, you can see that in Witch Mercury is that they both have very similar titles. Revolutionary Girl Utena is labeled as the Rose Bride, while Gundam Witch and Mercury's first episode is known as The Witch and the Bride. As you can see, very similar connections with the names, at least. And then as you go a bit further in Utena, one second, you see that this school has an extremely large, sweeping landscape, you see. So this is something that also is mirrored in Witch and Mercury, which I'll show as well. So I think you see it when Suletta pretty much first enters the school. She sees like this amazing, the humongous place. Let's see, get a better shot here. Yeah, so right here. So here you could see that the school is pretty much this huge like grassy area, and then in the front is pretty much the area where they do duels or any drills or anything. It's in general like a very large part of a colony, if you get what I mean. Especially when in the beginning of the episode, you get like a bit of visual on where they're going. See, it's this pretty much this huge space colony, which most likely takes part is pretty much where the school takes place. Same thing here with it having very large and beautiful landscapes. Like there's this sense of like grandiose vastness, which is replicated in both shows. Next, I'll then cover when Utena meets Anthy. So, you see, she first sees Anthy, who is the next protagonist, specifically in a rose garden, and you can see that it is actually, let's see, it is shaped like a bird cage. You see, so especially with the design and everything, makes sense if it's a common design, but very specifically reminds me of a cage. So if you think about Anthy is actually trapped in a bird cage, and specifically in a rose garden. While in Witch of Mercury, that sort of similar aesthetic is replicated here when Miorine enters her own home. And you can see it's full of plants and doesn't have to be just roses specifically, but flowering plants and things. So she also puts herself quote unquote in a cage, and also it may be also where she finds herself most comfortable. It is mentioned, Miorine specifically mentions with the tomato scene that let's see that the breed was from her mother specifically. Let's see, especially with the tomatoes and everything, it's specifically a scene that um reminds her of both her mother, but also in a way it reminds her of Earth in a way, because that is sort of the origin of all of living plants we know now. And especially that she's in a colony, she may want to feel a closer connection to her mother through surrounding herself with nature. And also, when she tried to escape her fiance in the beginning, she also may have wanted a bit of a closer connection to Earth itself. You also see here where you could see what's the word for it? Anthy is being abused by her fiance, who is very much a jerk. Let's see, get a better image. very difficult to get a good image of this. This is when Anthy is slapped by her fiance, and pretty much it just shows that power imbalance where Anthy is pretty much just treated as a trophy, right? She's considered the prize of pretty much whoever is the strongest duelist. And the same thing happens here, where when Jaturk comes in, and he pretty much has the similarity. He considers Miorine as a trophy. He doesn't really consider she is his fiance, right? But she is also his possession. And respectively, he does not respect her in any way. He only treats her as an object. Same thing with here as well, where this dude treats his fiance, Anthy at the time, as being very much an object. It's a shame. And also you can see they both shared this very long, wild, curly hair. Same thing with Geoturk here. You can see that there's a very strong connection, at least what comes with appearance. And obviously the both of them being handsome, both of them being the strongest duelists of their respective schools. In a way, they are very overpowering, arrogant people. And then next you get the introduction of the council. You see here, they refer to it as the Rose Council, or the student council or whatever. So you see it's made up of the leader, this dude, and then she has a lady subordinate, a guy who likes reading on the side, and then you have the jerk, and then you have the fiance. So they're all part of this council, and also for whatever reason they're trying not to upset someone specifically. It's hard to tell who it is, but it looks like they are being watched over by someone, and someone also decides their roles in the council stuff, or someone elects them. So they're like, oh, we have to stay on their good terms. A similar idea comes here, but it's mostly with the idea of the dueling council. Let's see, it's in the beginning. When you see the duel, you see that there's something known as the, what I call it? I believe dueling council, I think is the word for it. You're introduced to a little bit in the first duel. You see it more prominently in the second duel. Let me try and get to that. Yep. Nope, not here. So here you see pretty much this is that long-haired guy who's the leader. You see that lady in the back who's like that long, elegant lady, similar to this blonde-haired girl. Orange-haired girl, and then this guy being the long hair, who's the leader. And then you see the guy who reads, who is pretty much reflected as this guy who's reading on the side. And then I think that was everyone mostly. Yeah. Or the two readings. So you have this guy who's kind of reading, and then this guy who's also being a scribe. So it's kind of like both. That's where I think there's the blue-haired guy. This blue-haired guy has that similar role, which is really interesting. So you can see that they're having a lot of parallels between the two. Then you see here is where Anthy challenges this guy to a duel. So that's also very important as well, where she pretty much is not impulsive, but it's more like, I believe that I need to win in order to save the princess, because Anthy specifically wants to become a prince in order to save a princess. And also to kind of go back to in the very beginning where she made a promise to reunite with someone who gave her the rose ring. Don't know when that'll happen in the Revolutionary Girl Utena, but yeah, it's in a way to fulfill a promise that was made. And same here when pretty much Jaturk pretty much gets angry, pretty much acts like a jerk. He pretty much helps destroy Miorine's sanctuary, which is her quote-unquote garden and quote-unquote her cage as well, if you get what I mean. So he is the one who's destroying her sanctum. And here he is more like, just more asking for the duel and stuff. And he does that. And pretty much she accepts the duel conditions, because she knows that she could win. Next, you get this kind of this phase where she's kind of like the chosen one. I don't really know if this part is as relevant, but I found it kind of interesting where it's because Anthy had that ring that she was able to enter and be able to be quote unquote the challenger, which is really interesting. Very cool scene here, going up the staircase and everything. And also, in a way, it's also when the stage is set up. And that a similar sequence happens here when pretty much they set up their Gundams in the very beginning. Like they do all the setup, and then that Jaturk guy gets all his equipment on and everything. Pretty much similar idea of setting the stage in order to prepare for the fight. And next you see pretty much, let's see. So next is where Anthy, the quote unquote princess and I guess the prize, right? She bestows upon gives a rose to both her fiance and Utena as a way of sort of giving them, the means of winning or losing the duel. As in Utena specifically, you lose when your rose is broken. Well, here I think it's mentioned is that you have to remove the top of the Gundam itself. Right? I think I mentioned here, right? It's like, let's see, duels. Yeah, and pretty much how he mentions that you have to break pretty much the top of their let's see, it's sort of like a decoration, right? So they have some sort of like horn or chosen area that they must break in order to be able to win. That's same here for the Witch and Mercury, specifically that top part above the head. It's kind of like a horn where Jaturk's version is pretty much kind of like a pompadour. It's kind of like a feather. While in here it's specifically the rose. So they both have points that they must defeat, and that is the next commonality. And then you see that in Revolutionary Girl Utena, after Anthy provides Utena the rose, her fiance slaps her because he believes that Anthy is only his possession. While in a way, this is Anthy's form of defiance against her current situation. Very small form of defiance, but still a form of defiance. While here, it's when specifically Miorine takes over Suletta's place in the Gundam. In a way, she tries to fight herself. Here. Yes, you can see here she's trying to, in a way, rebel, even though she isn't good at piloting at all. She's in, I believe, the School of Management, while Suletta is in the piloting division. So they both have their respective specialties, but you could definitely tell Miorine isn't really good at piloting Gundams. So she, in a way, loses because of that. She isn't good enough here. And now it's where pretty much, I think also in regards to the actual fight, when Utena was fighting against this the jerk, right? She breaks her sword because she's using a kendo sword. But why she wins is because she was brave enough in order to defeat her opponent. She did, like, even with her broken sword, she still won in the end because she believed in herself. While in Witch of Mercury, it's pretty much, if you've seen the scene a lot, pretty much Suletta wins overwhelmingly. She's considered quote unquote the underdog, but she knew from the very beginning that she would win, especially with the Ariel helping her out, and the Ariel being sentient. So yeah, and with that change, then the candidacy breaks. For example, this is when Anthy no longer has to refer to her that green hair guy as her fiance or by the sama. Instead, calls him senpai because of the change in title. While here, it's more like after Suletta solely defeats that jerk and then is crowned the victor, she pretty much, in a way, gains something from. She gains not just the bride herself, but she also gains a clothing transformation from her former green uniform like everyone else to this white and gold. It's sort of like gives off a very royal feeling to it. And a change in uniform also determines a change in status, which is really interesting. For example, like I'll use a comparison here where both Utena and Anthy both have their regular uniforms, but also they have something that's a bit more complicated. For example, Utena here has like sort of something that's a bit more formal, kind of like how Suletta has her own uniform change, while Anthy specifically has that outfit of the rose one. Let's see, get an image of that. Can't get a good image here, but you can see that Anthy specifically has this really beautiful red dress. So in a way, that's also her clothing transformation as well. Don't know if Mia Reine will have one too, because it doesn't seem that she's designated one, but it is cool that they both share that uniform change. And yeah, I think that's mostly the main points. Hope you guys found that kind of interesting comparing the two. As I'm sure that even if both shows have similar like roots when it comes with like how certain aspects are connected to each other, I'm sure that both are in a way unique on their own, even if they may be similar conceptually. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching Utena. I found that I gained a lot more out of it because I watched it and then rewatched Witch of Mercury, because you could see all those like very strong connections. But yeah, and also one last thing is that obviously the bride is acknowledging the victor as the new fiance. So that is also a very nice scene here, as in right here, and here at the very end, where you see pretty much Anthy going to meet Utena at the very end, and also referring to it as Sama, as in the master. So yeah, and also, oh yeah, one more thing actually I forgot is when Suletta wins, there's this amazing scene where pretty much you get a good reaction from the council. Let me see if I could find it. From the council members specifically. Don't think it's here. Yeah, so around here. So pretty much you see that Suletta gets this guy's attention, which is pretty cool. And similar thing happens here when after Utena wins, then she gets this guy's attention afterwards after winning. So that's also a really nice in close comparison too. Yeah, I think that's it. Now it's actually everything. I think I did cover what I could. But yeah, hope you guys liked it, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Take care.